Look closely at this skyline of Yangon taken before 2021. You have a traditional golden pagoda sitting directly beside towering modern glass banks. This is the architecture of a city that was rapidly building a vibrant economy and a thriving middle class. Consider the trajectory of one local accountant in his early 30s. He moved from a rural village to the city, studied relentlessly, and climbed the corporate ladder fast. His success was tangible. He reached a universal milestone of economic stability, taking out a mortgage on a new condo. That upward trajectory snapped in 2021. A military coup, compounded by a global pandemic, threw the entire country into lockdown. Heavy armored military vehicles began rolling aggressively down civilian streets, pushing past protest signs. The economic fallout was immediate and severe. Businesses froze completely. Office workers who had spent years building careers were abruptly fired. Jump forward to the accountant's own colleagues were forced to become trishaw drivers, pedaling heavy manual bicycles in the extreme heat just to feed their families. Escaping the collapse wasn't an option. Legal border crossings were strictly sealed off. If someone attempted to cross illegally into neighboring Thailand, they were almost guaranteed to end up trapped in harsh, exploitative physical labor. They were geographically boxed in. This political collapse delivered the first shock. It wiped out the accountant's economic future and delivered a brutal lesson about exactly how fast state failure erases personal ambition. Jump forward to 2026. Keeping your head down and surviving quietly is no longer enough. The military junta initiated a second shock, forced conscription. Now, heavily armed, masked soldiers patrol shoulder to shoulder with ordinary civilians. Conscription here lacks the bureaucracy of a formal draft. It operates as a violent system of human hunting on the streets of Yangon. During the day, plainclothes operatives and men in uniform pull young men right off the sidewalk. It happens in broad daylight. The sheer abruptness of these daylight abductions has left 20-somethings too terrified to even sit down for a cup of tea at a local cafe. At night, the tactics shift. Corrupt neighborhood administrators use locally drafted lists to identify specific targets. They collaborate with authorities to orchestrate sudden raids under the cover of darkness, dragging people straight out of their homes. This entire system is fueled by a perverse financial incentive structure. A citizen is captured and handed to the military. In return, a flow of ransom cash from desperate families, or a bounty for hitting recruitment quotas, goes straight back to the local informant. The regime has weaponized the desperation of its own populace. By attaching a price tag to human bodies, they have turned neighbors into profit-driven hunters to sustain the junta's military operations. The military's desperation for manpower means they are casting a much wider net. The violence is actively expanding far beyond the original target demographic of 18 to 25-year-old men. In mid-March, a 47-year-old trishaw driver vanished without a trace. His family heard absolutely nothing for 2 months. When he finally managed to contact them, he revealed he had been kidnapped off the street and sold to the military to serve as a soldier. The psychological weight of this reality crushes the elderly, too. A 53-year-old grandfather who works as a delivery driver recently stopped dyeing his hair entirely. He wants to look as old as possible so he isn't mistaken for a draft-age man and snatched off the road. The junta has engineered a cascading terror. An 18-year-old fears the vans. His parents wait awake in terror, and his grandparents alter their appearance. No generation is immune to the paralysis. Which brings us back to the accountant. He still has the mortgage, but he has completely abandoned his hard-earned condo. The terror of a nighttime raid drove him out. Pushed to his mental limit, he approached his company's directors in tears. He begged them for permission to secretly live inside the company's equipment storage warehouse. Every night, he relies on his colleagues to snap a heavy padlock shut on the corrugated metal door from the outside. Inside, he turns off every light. He sits in pitch-black darkness, holding his breath, trying to make the space look entirely abandoned. He lives in a state of hypervigilance. If a stray dog barks in the neighborhood, he jolts awake in a cold sweat, convinced it's the sound of military boots approaching his door. In modern Yangon, for those trapped like this accountant, The concept of a future has been replaced by a more immediate reality. Success has been reduced to 3 primal goals: avoiding the draft, avoiding any detection, and simply surviving the night.